back to Cooking with Siobhan. I'm Siobhan Muir, and today we are making a spiced raisin bread. What's cool about this recipe is I was wandering through the Natural Grocers, which is our little health food grocery store here in Cheyenne, and ironically, it was in the old building that had the Barnes & Noble, so it's really just a bookstore with groceries at this point. But I was wandering through, and at the front they had this thing where they had a whole bunch of recipes, and I was like, spiced raisin bread, let's see what that is. It's specifically set up to be a gluten-free recipe. So this one is literally a recipe that is meant to be gluten-free, so that's what we're making, is gluten-free spiced raisin bread. And let's do this thing. Okay, so what are you going to need? You are going to need a half cup of raisins. Or no, did I get that right? No, 2/3 of a cup of raisins. Sorry, the printing is like really tiny, so it's very hard to read. 2/3 of a cup of raisins, 1 cup of hot water. I would suggest just hot water from the tap. You can microwave it if you want to. Don't run your kettle, just hot water from the tap is fine. 1 cup of gluten-free 1-to-1 baking flour, ½ cup of almond flour, ½ cup of rolled oats. I don't have rolled oats, so we're just going with quick oats. People like to have a different texture, then you might want to go specifically with rolled oats or steel cut oats or whatever it is. Listen, I need oatmeal, I go with the quick oats. They're inexpensive, you can get a lot of them, and they work well in any recipe. You will also need 1½ teaspoons of baking powder, 2 teaspoons of organic pumpkin spice blend. Okay, so here's the deal. This is 2 teaspoons of organic pumpkin spice blend. What's in a pumpkin spice blend? You're going to need cinnamon, ginger, cloves, and nutmeg, okay? If you do not have their special blend, I'm gonna give you the recipe right now. Ready? 1 teaspoon of cinnamon, ½ teaspoon of ginger, ½ teaspoon of cloves, and ¼ teaspoon of ground nutmeg. Now, if you have like me, the nutmeg nuts, just grate some in there and mix it all together, and boom, pumpkin spice blend. And that makes 2 teaspoons right there, so you just dump this sucker in when you're ready. You will also need 1/8 of a teaspoon, sorry, the writing is really tiny, 1/8 teaspoon of salt, ½ cup of sugar, 2 eggs. Sorry, I have to read, they've added a lot of stuff like organic and pasteurized, like 2 eggs. 1 or 3/4 of a cup of organic applesauce, or just regular applesauce, no sugar added. 1/4 of a cup of coconut oil that you're going to heat up, melt, and cool slightly. All right, and then it says 1 baking apple, peeled, sliced, and sauteed in butter. I'm not sure we're gonna do that, but that's an option. So what do you need to do first? The first thing it says is soak the raisins in a small bowl with just enough hot water to cover them. That was that 1 cup of hot water. I think what we will do is we will put this in the tap and run it really as hot as you can stand. So this is pretty hot water that I got out of the tap, and they just said cover your raisins with hot water and set aside. So I will do that. Preheat your oven to 350 degrees Fahrenheit or 177 degrees Celsius, and grease a standard loaf pan with coconut oil or a spray, and line the bottom with a piece of parchment paper that overhangs the 2 long sides to easily remove it. You can do that. You can totally do that if you want to. I don't want to, so I just sprayed mine. Or I could. All they want to do is just a piece in and out, and then you can just lift that thing out in the end, but I'm not gonna do that. You can. There's nothing wrong with that. It does make it really easy to lift things out, but that's an extra step I don't want to do. Add the flour, almond flour, oats, baking powder, pumpkin spice, and salt to a mixing bowl. So, let's do it. Okay, so what do we need? We need a cup of 1-to-1 gluten-free baking flour. Ta-da! 1 cup. 1/2 cup of almond flour, which is always a lovely golden color. I love that about that. And then 1/2 cup of gluten-free oats. Now, before I add anything else, I think, wait, don't I add just one more thing? No, a couple more things. I'm gonna stir this right now to get all the flour and the oats together. Because you're gonna whisk the whole thing together, but I'm just gonna start with getting the oats and flour kind of mixed. So it looks kind of like chunky flour. And that's kind of what you want. Add the baking powder, pumpkin spice, and salt. So we need 1.5 teaspoons of baking powder. 1/8 of a teaspoon of salt. Like I said, the writing is like 8-point font. Oh, good! That does say that, doesn't it? 1/8 of a teaspoon. A little tiny bit of salt. And then it says oats, baking powder, and pumpkin spice and salt. So we did these two. My homemade pumpkin spice. Okay. And then whisk all of that together, because then it'll turn into brown chunky flour. Ta-da! Golden brown chunky flour. And it, ooh, it smells good. Ooh, yeah, that smells good. All right. Now, in another large mixing bowl, so we'll set this one aside. Beat the eggs, then add the sugar and mix well. So, we need 2 eggs. Ta-da! Beat the eggs, then add the sugar, mix well, and then you'll add the applesauce. But let's beat the eggs first. You want to beat your eggs until they're really pretty light and fluffy. I am going to add the sugar, but first what you want to do is you're going to want to melt this. This is your coconut oil. I believe you need 1/4 cup, but you need to melt it and then slightly cool it. So I would put this in the microwave for 15 to 20 seconds. Not very long, because you want to melt it completely, because you're going to add it into the wet ingredients. Okay, it's going to be your oil basically, or your butter. Ooh, getting there. This is what it looks like in 15 seconds. It's kind of oily, but I'm going to use a spoon to break it down a little bit. 10 seconds maybe. That way it gets completely broken down into its oily form, and then you let it cool a little bit. All right, so then add the sugar, and that was a 1/2 cup of sugar. And add the sugar and mix well. Stir in the applesauce. And how much applesauce did we need? We need 3/4 of a cup of applesauce. I love this thing because I don't have to get out 3/4. This whole thing is, and it's great for things like applesauce because you could just pour it in there. You don't even have to measure. Ta-da! 3/4 of a cup of applesauce. Easy. Add the sugar and mix well. Okay, what you're going to get is kind of a thick, eggy syrup almost. All right, and then it says, stir in applesauce, then slowly add the coconut oil while mixing. So we're gonna put this in there like this. And we're gonna stir in the applesauce. We will beat it in a moment, but mostly let's just stir in the applesauce. So now you've got, it's a little watery because the apples, of course, produce quite a bit of water. Ooh, and it smells good. It smells like applesauce and sugar and all the good things. And then it says start mixing and slowly add the coconut oil while mixing until the liquids are well combined. So we're just going to do this slow. And yeah, I know it says can do it while you're still mixing, but since there's just me, I want to make sure all the oil gets out of the bowl, so I am going to stop long enough to get all the oil out. And then I will mix when they're well combined. Okay. You should look kind of like a cloudy liquid. It smells really good. I know it looks kind of weird, but it smells really good. Thoroughly drain the raisins and pat them dry with a paper towel or clean tea towel, and then add them to the dry ingredients, stirring to coat and separate them. So we're going to let this sit here for a minute, doing its thing. So what you want to do is, so we let this thing soak for a little while. Now I'm going to one moment, please. What you're going to do is you're going to take your raisins and you're going to drain them in a colander of one kind or another. And then you'll dry them pat them dry with paper towels. But I'm going to do this over the sink, not over my table. Once you've gotten the majority of water out, dump them on the paper towel. Kind of spread them out. It'll make it easier. And then pat them dry. And what you do is you're trying to absorb the worst of the water on the outside. You have rehydrated them, but you're trying to absorb the worst of the water on the outside of these raisins. Then you take these, and I'm going to leave them right there so you can see them, and you put them in the dry ingredients. And then you kind of toss to combine. And the big thing here is to make sure you're coating and separating all the raisins, because when they get wet, they get sticky. So you really want your raisins to be coated and everywhere. Not in big clumps of raisin. You want them to be kind of separated out into other bits. Add half the liquid to the flour mixture and mix well, and then the remaining liquid and again mix well. While I do like this, I think I would really prefer a wooden spoon. It has a little more stiffness. You can get around things, and you can really get things well mixed. Okay, so it said add half. So we're just gonna pour that. And then we're gonna mix this stuff in there like this. And then it says, again, mix well. Pour the batter into a prepared loaf pan. So basically get this all in there. I know, I've got the bowl to you again. Sorry, it's just easier to pour this way. And now we're gonna add all of this to this so that we have a really nice batter to make bread with. Pour the batter into a prepared loaf pan, tapping the bottom on the counter several times to even out the batter and encourage the air bubbles to rise to the top. As with most gluten-free things, it doesn't always flow the way you want it to, so I highly suggest just kind of spreading things out with your spatula a little bit. You don't have to make it flat, but the idea is to get it to the four corners so that you have a decent loaf when you're done. And then doesn't look like it has that many air bubbles, but there. Bake for 60 to 65 minutes or until the top is browned and a toothpick inserted in the center comes out clean. So ta-da, we will just bake it. And then it says, allow the bread to cool for 10 to 15 minutes. in the pan before lifting it out by the parchment paper and allowing it to cool completely on a wire rack is my guess. You can cool completely in the pan, but it will take longer. This is supposed to bake for, say, 60 to 65 minutes. We'll start at 60 and we'll see if it needs the extra 5. Okay, so we'll see you in about an hour. All right. Looks really good, smells really good. It's been sitting here for a little while. Still pretty warm though. Look at that. Ooh, it smells so good. Pumpkin spice for the win. It's the right time of year for that as well. The picture makes it look like it's about twice as high but half as wide. Whatever you want to do. This one it said, it just said a loaf pan. A standard loaf pan. I have smaller ones that I could have probably made 2 loaves out of, and they would have been more the dessert loaf. They're more like that. So I could have done 2 of them. But it's kind of nice to just make a larger one, and then you can cut slices. It smells really good. Still really hot. I'll leave it out for a little bit. But yeah, it was really easy to make. And like I said, if you have a Natural Grocers in your town or city, they have these, like I said, they kind of sit at the front, and they have these recipe cards. But this is really simple. And then you can, yeah, I'm gonna cut it anyway, I think. Let's see what we can do. I can't decide if it needs to be sweeter, because the raisins are sweet, or if it needs fewer raisins. It's interesting. It's pretty good. The raisins kind of leave an interesting aftertaste that kind of gets like, but I think overall it's good. You have to be a person who likes fruit in your bread. You know, like fruits and nuts. There's no nuts in this one. Yeah, I think it's good. I mean, you're not gonna go, oh my God, this is awful. It's a good bread. The raisins are a little, you know what might be better would be saltanas. Saltanas are the yellow raisins, the golden raisins. They're a little sweeter, sweeter and softer, not kind of like raisin. You know, it's a softer flavor, and they aren't in your face as much. But I think it's good. If you like kind of a sweetened raisin bread that is a little dessert bread, I think it would be really good with butter on it too as well. Not a failure in any way, shape, or form. Just, I think I would do fewer raisins, and I might try saltanas to give it kind of a softer fruit, dried fruit. I bet you could get away with this with cranberries too. Dried cranberries might be a really good counterpoint to the sweet bread. So, yeah. Well, thank you so much for joining us. Definitely ring the bell to find out when there's new videos. Subscribe to the channel so you know when there's new videos. Like the video, comment on it. Tell me, did you decide to use saltanas instead? Did you decide, we think that maybe it would be better not to rehydrate the raisins and just put them in dry. I kind of think that might be a better plan. Let us know what you tried. Definitely sign up for my Patreon, which is patreon.com/Siobhan Muir. It's a really good way to get to my writing, some of the brand new writing, see cover reveals before they happen, get an exclusive story that you can only find on Patreon. Just $5 a month, and you can get all sorts of goodies. Also, videos about my miniature making, which I'm getting the itch again to build another one. This will be fun. So definitely sign up for those things, and yeah, happy making, happy baking, happy eating, and happy reading. Bye.